We're joined here now by Dr. Hill. He is the superintendent for the West Bloomfield School District. He has been in that position since 2012. But prior to that, he got his BS and MA in elementary education at the University of Minnesota and his PhD from University of North Texas. He is someone that is near and dear to our West Bloomfield schools. He was elected here and became into the position in 2012 and has just newly announced his retirement. Very exciting. Dr. Hill, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Maddie. I'm very pleased to be here, and thank you for that kind introduction.
So before we talk about your retirement, I feel like we need to talk a little bit about the events that happened in Oxford yesterday, those tragic events. For West Bloomfield schools, is there protocol if something like this were to happen here in our public schools, the school district in West Bloomfield?
Yeah, yes, there are. Before I get into that, I'm heartbroken over the tragedy that happened yesterday in Oxford. As an educator, as a parent, as a grandparent, it's one's worst nightmare. And we are always trying to implement programs and practices and protocols that would prevent such incidences. But unfortunately, they happen on far too regular a basis in our country. Personally, I think it's a combination of we need to beef up our school mental health services. And we have in West Bloomfield, we have 2 school mental health service professionals. We need to really sharpen and continue to sharpen our safety and security measures, and we work cooperatively with the West Bloomfield Police Department and with other security agencies in crafting a plan. We need to constantly be updating that. And then in our society, weapons are far too readily available, in my opinion, particularly for young people. And I think that's a societal issue, a legislative issue, and we're aware of all those concerns, but we can't keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. And this will continue unless we as a society take some further firm actions on mental health, on the protocols I mentioned, and on gun safety.
And then in the West Bloomfield schools, do they have, especially for the West Bloomfield Public High School, do they have any sort of protocol or drills that they do here in the school? God forbid there would be an active shooter in our schools.
Yeah, and we haven't really done them since COVID hit, and we're still on the heels of coming out of that. But I think 2018 we had several drills with staff and getting the momentum going, and then of course COVID hit and we've been reeling from that. But I was in a meeting this morning with the high school staff and talk about exactly what your question is, and we will be implementing drills with staff and trying to determine what the best drills are with students. It's not just a matter of hiding. There's protocols for how to run, how to alert people, how to, if you can't escape, to take cover, but then really how to fight back. I think that further tragedy was, the tragedy, as bad as it was, 3 deaths and 8 people shot, would have been a lot worse had Oxford not implemented similar types of drills, because my understanding is the authorities were there pretty quickly and the staff and students responded as appropriately as you can under those circumstances.
Yeah, and something you never want to have to prepare for, but in today's day and age, obviously something that you have to prepare our students for, unfortunately. But let's talk about in June of 2022, this upcoming June, you are going to retire. You announced your retirement at the school board meeting. Tell us a little bit about that decision and what it means for you, since you've been in our West Bloomfield community as a superintendent since 2012.
Sure, I'd be pleased to. Well, as I told the board that evening, I was reflecting back on 10 years ago when the board selected me as superintendent, and one of the current board members, Dr. Nick Hirsch, asked a question during the interview because they knew I was retiring from Illinois, how long I intended to stay. And I said, well, I'm going to stay as long as I feel I'm effective, as long as the board wants me to stay, as long as I am challenged by the work, and all of that is still true today. But after 49 years in the business and really 10 fantastic years in West Bloomfield, it's time for me to take another direction. And it's really a good opportunity for the school district to assess where we are and select the next leader with hopefully to continue the momentum we've built over the last 10 years.
And Dr. Hill, looking back on your years here in West Bloomfield, do you have a moment or something that you hold near and dear to your heart, whether that was something with the athletics or with the schools in general, but was there one moment that you think really stands out over your years here in West Bloomfield?
Actually, there is. And it happened on March the 13th of 2000 what was it, 19 or 20? When did this pandemic start? But anyway, I was in a meeting with my cabinet that Monday morning of that week, and we saw signs of looming disaster occurring related to COVID. And we said, well, we better have a meeting on Wednesday with our district design team. And it's a collaborative group. And that moment stands out because we had teachers in there, school board members, administrators. And so on that Wednesday, we had we changed the whole agenda of our meeting to talk about, so what would happen if we had to close schools as of Monday, not knowing that the next day the governor was going to announce that the schools would be closed on Monday. And so what we did was, well, why don't we just plan a snow day? Everyone loves snow days, right? And so we planned a snow day for Friday the 13th, but there was no snow. It was just to plan in the event that we would have to close for the pandemic. Well, lo and behold, Thursday night came, the governor made her announcement. Friday came, we had all staff on deck at all of our schools planning for what they would do the following week for students in a totally remote fashion. The reason it stands out for me is that every person, every teacher, every paraeducator, all the school secretaries, administrators, they all came to the table and they all worked feverishly hard that whole day Friday, and we were prepared for a total pivot from face-to-face to totally remote in the course of a weekend. Now, we didn't do it perfectly, but it spoke to the collaborative spirit that I believe that we built over the years. And it spoke to the caring of all staff and really the creative thinking of people. And so that stands out as a moment that I will forever remember as I reflect back on my career.
And Dr. Hill, real quick before we let you go, what's next for you after your retirement in June?
I plan to, my wife and I, we have 3 trips that are booked. They're canceled during COVID. So we're going to be doing extensive traveling. We're going to be determining where our next venture is in terms of where we'll live. We're not originally from Michigan. I'm from Minnesota. My wife's from Minnesota, and we have family in Texas. We have family in California. So, our granddaughters live in California. So I suspect we might be looking west and looking at different opportunities out there. On a professional basis, I'm not looking to do much more consulting, writing, teaching, that type of thing, but not another full-time gig. This has been very rewarding for the last 10 years here, and the community, the school board, the teachers, the staff, especially the students, have been so exciting to work with, and I will carry that with me for the rest of my life.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Hill.
Thank you.